Stream is starting. I like that background, dude. That's cool. It's very fun.
Well,
Oh,
hello
I hear me.
everyone. Oh my goodness, we're doing a thing. Hi everyone, welcome
Thing.
to the Keep. I am your host Jay, with my special guest Jordan, who's trying to lean off camera as he always does.
Which side? Stay towards this side.
That, yeah, I was gonna say your normal spot is a little over to your left.
We're good.
Well, welcome everybody. This is our first ever live podcast. Ah!
Woo!
Yeah, we're
I'm
doing a
so honored.
thing. Yeah. So I'm actually kind of running the tech and us at the same time. So if you see me do this a lot, it's just because I'm trying to figure out what actually works and what doesn't, because I don't know.
You
Uh,
see me do that a lot. It's just because I'm super ADD.
right.
I have things around tactile things, so I will hopefully stay focused.
Get your
It's good
get your
during
stimming in.
it's good during D&D. You'll see me like doing a lot of things. I'm trying to keep my hands occupied, but there's other people talking and whatnot. But when it's just the two of us, it's gonna be like, is he even paying attention? And yes, I
Yeah,
am.
no, I get that. I am hyper ADHD, and I'll sit there. I do the finger tactile stuff.
Yep.
I'll sit here and my worst one is I'll sit here and actually start doing this inner monologue thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know why. I don't know what starts it, but once
Yeah.
I get there, it's like, oh God, what have we been doing for the past like 20, 30 minutes?
Yes.
um,
Yes.
sorry, Lauren, we really are paying attention. It just looks like we're not.
To
Uh,
quote Lego Movie. Okay, I think I got it all, but just in case, repeat everything. I wasn't listening.
right?
But hopefully, I was.
I have never like actually felt something so deeply in my soul.
Like I swear I was listening, but I remember none of what you just said.
Oh, I used to drive my parents absolutely bonkers with that because I'll look them
Used to.
dead in the eyes and like I'm listening, I'm paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
I swear I don't remember anything you just said.
It's
I am so
frustrating
sorry.
because it's like I can't tell you what you said, but I also, if I was distracted, I can't tell you what I was thinking.
100%. I'm gonna do a really quick tech thing. Let's see if
Sweet.
this. Ah,
My current tactile project is pulling 3D prints off the build plate to ship to Garrett. I was gonna say what they were,
nice.
but I'm afraid he's listening, and I'm trying to surprise him. So I'm
Does he
working on
know they're
those.
coming, or is
Yeah, because I
that
had to get his address. I was like, dude, text me your address because I want to send you these things. I found these things, and he was like, I'm stoked. I'm like, don't get too excited, okay? It's not like crazy exciting, but it's fun. And I just saw it, and I was like, Garrett needs this.
Garrett 100% needs this? This has to be a thing.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a good time.
Wes just commented, Jordan is not a good listener. Canon.
Whoa, that is not what was said. Thank you.
Um, so for anybody who's wondering what the heck we're doing, um, honestly, this is a chance for me to hang out with people, kind of one on one, get to know people, um, and just be this kind of goober. And I swear I just had the Goofy Goober song from the SpongeBob movie run through my head.
Did you know that goober means peanut? Side
I
note.
did actually.
Okay, good, because most people don't. I'm proud of you.
No, yeah, again, another thing of ADD, random trivia.
Yes.
It just pops
absolutely.
in our head. But
Yes.
yeah, we get to talk about life, get liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and ADD
Perfect.
apparently.
Liberty. ADD. Always ADD. It always
uh,
comes up because it's always happening.
oh, I hate you, Wes. He just started the Goofy Goober song, and now it's in my head. And screw you. But yeah, so for anybody who jumps in, as Wesley is doing, feel free to jump in the chat, ask questions.
Wesley, feel free to jump out.
And
Kidding, love you.
yeah, enjoy hanging out with us. So I'm gonna do a quick introduction of the two of us because honestly, Jordan is the person I get to hang out with the least because he lives far away. And now doing
Sad.
school, so that's kind of important. But you are the person I get to hang out with the least and spend the least amount of time with. So uh, I definitely want to take advantage of all these things. But first, um, so because I'm gonna ask Jordan a buku ton of questions. So I'm gonna get my crap out of the way first, so I can get into that because that's gonna be fun.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know who I am and why I'm hosting this, it's honestly because I like to talk and I'm available. I like long walks on the beach. No.
Perfect.
I mean,
Fresh
I
flowers.
do. That's not wrong, but I'm also not hitting on Jordan yet. So he has a girlfriend. Darn. Sorry,
Entirely
ladies.
sure I've had enough to drink for that.
Right? But anyway, I'm from a bit of all over, but currently living in Texas. I grew up working in kind of doing jack of all trades stuff, but I do. I currently work full time in construction, and now this helping run a streaming business. Wes said, "So you're saying there's a chance?" I appreciate that reference. Um, so anyway, I went to school for videography in my younger days. Now I'm pursuing a degree in creative writing and video game design because I like both of those. And if construction industry no longer appeals or works out, I have something else I can go do. Um, but yeah, I love being a nerd and spending time with other nerds, and so tonight I get to spend time with another nerd. Um, and that brings me to my guest, who, for those of you who are fans of The Keep, you may recognize Jordan as the Oso Bardic Quesator.
Yes, Wes, you have a bard before he puts it in the chat.
Right.
Yes, I'm a bard.
Yes, he's a bard.
Coming.
So I've known Jordan for almost 2 years now. Uh, crazy, crazy to think it's actually been that long.
Yeah.
I met Jordan. Gosh, it would have been February-ish. Right before Lauren did her first one shot, and Wes said, "Hey, I'm bringing a friend. He's gonna play D&D with us. You're gonna love him." And he was not wrong. I'm always a little apprehensive when people say you're going to like people because I am very particular about my people and that type of thing. So I met Jordan, and within like 10 minutes I was like, I'm gonna enjoy this person. We have lots of memorable moments, not the least of which is you and Wesley singing Let It Go, gazing deeply into each other's eyes.
Yes, Friendsgiving. That was a good
Yep.
time. I also enjoyed our garage discussion of drowning Tiamat. That's one of my favorites.
That was fantastic.
That was a good night. Good night. Yeah.
So Jordan, I'm actually going to let you tell a little bit about yourself, and then we'll jump into some questions.
Oh boy, it's so open-ended.
It is. I gave you an outline.
Yes. Yeah. So I can I just say the same thing from my perspective. I met Jay 2 years ago, and yeah. No, I met Jay, Lauren, and Garrett, actually, all three coming into the D&D group. Grew up with Wesley and Jonathan on and off. Love those two guys. And Wesley was over or Wes, I forget. Anyway, was over and was like, I had done a weird thing. I think I've mentioned it on a Wednesday night chat before. But basically, I had set up a whole thing being a nerd for my sister when she got home, because we had an apartment together, and part of that was being a bard, and I had this little song I played on the ukulele, and I was telling Wesley about it, and he was like, "You should come be a bard in our next campaign. We're about to start a campaign that my friend Lauren put together." And I was like, "Oh, so sounds fun. I've like was vaguely familiar with D&D. I had played like something that was based on the D&D mechanics like a decade before, briefly. And then I think I've mentioned too, like Wes and I created D&D basically that we played together, which is just us narrating storylines, and we had stats and bad guys and like all this random stuff.
Right.
I cannot remember what it's called. I think it was called the Something Adventure Club because it was BAC on the folder, and I don't remember what it stood for. But anyways, that was a good time. And then Wes and I, or he invited me to come, and that's where I met you and Lauren and Garrett, and was super happy about that. And a couple others who aren't playing with us anymore, which is sad. But yeah. And then Brenda when she joined in too. Yeah. And the funny thing, until I got to come home for Thanksgiving, I had never met Brenda in person. I'd only
that's right.
I had only Zoomed, so that was fun. And I guess I met Chelsea for the first time too, who I guess people may not know who Chelsea is, but she's great too. So yeah. That was my start with the group. So
yeah, it was definitely a thing. Like I said, it's one of those, like, I'm very particular about the people I hang out with and associate with on a regular basis. For me, especially with playing Dungeons and Dragons, as I mentioned on a previous chat thing, I've grown up playing the game. I love the game, but it's a very intimate setting when you get playing long term. You know, it's one thing to do like a one shot or something to that effect. It's a whole nother thing to play a long campaign, you know, much less, you know, a year, 2 years, things like that. And I mean, we're coming up on 2 years of playing this home game, and that's a very emotional, intimate setting of learning the ins and outs of people and what they, you know, where your boundaries lie, what are you comfortable with, sometimes not even knowing about that until you get into it. You know, we ran into an episode where we hit a hot button issue for both Wes and myself that we didn't even realize how much of a hot button issue it was. And both of our characters ended up killing a whole bunch of people. And you have to go back, guys, and watch the episode on that one. That was one of those, everybody sat around like, oh shoot, they're doing this. And we did. And realizing that that's such a hot button issue, learning different people's play styles and everything, it's very hard to let people in and be comfortable enough with people to be okay with that kind of stuff. So it was definitely one of those. You and Garrett I actually met both of y'all the same way. Lauren said, "Hey, I'm inviting my friend Garrett. He works with me." And Wes said, "Hey, I'm inviting my friend Jordan." And both of those were just solid. Like, the second we met, I was like, "Yeah, this is gonna be fun. I'm gonna enjoy this person." You know, Brenda took me a little longer to work up to, you know, to warm up to, because I was like, as is with anything, when you've established a rhythm, you know, you bring a new person in, and it's like, oh, how are you gonna affect the rhythm? Now, I love Brenda. I think she's fantastic, and definitely brought a fun dynamic to the group. But it was one of those things of, this is gonna take me a minute, and it did. I liked Brenda as a person. Just as a player, it was a little bit weirder. Wes, I did not say I don't like Brenda. Don't put words in my chat box.
No, quit saying canon. I like how he's literally making things canon in life.
Right. So, as we mentioned, Jordan, we're both in school. What are you going to school for, as you took a big bite of something and now I'm making you talk?
Done. So I am doing product design and development with a minor in unmanned aerial systems.
Nice.
Yeah, so was in engineering, and for a number of reasons decided to switch over to design and development. And I've really enjoyed the program here in Utah, and I'm finally
So
doing
far
work.
away.
I know it is so far away. But yeah, finally enjoying doing work now that is related to my major, and looking at, Lord willing, graduating soon. So
So what is your graduation date?
that's an excellent question. It's an ever-moving target. I thought
get
it was going to
that.
be like 6 years ago, and here we are.
I get that so much.
Yeah. So currently it is May 2022. So
Okay.
I'm off this semester, just working. So I have 2 semesters left, just next fall and spring. Shit.
Fair enough. Yeah, mine got moved back to December of 2022, so I'm sitting there like, I feel you, bro. I feel that.
Yeah.
So what made you decide to go pursue this program at this school? And
So I guess we'll dive into a little bit of the engineering switch. So I went into engineering because I love to make things. That's like, I love to work with my hands, and I love to create. And so that takes a lot of forms. I create physical things with either 3D printing or woodwork or leatherwork, resin pour, whatever. I love all mediums of physical creation, and I also love programming. So I'm not great at programming, but because I'm ADD. I call it ADD in the macro. So I'm ADD in the micro, like normal ADD. But I'm also ADD in the macro, and then I have so many things that I enjoy, and I bounce between them. And so I always I'm programming right now, and I'm having to relearn the programming that I knew, because it's been a couple years since I've done something. And so now I'm using it for one of my product designs, but I'm having to reteach myself the actual programming. So
interesting.
But yeah, so I just love to create things, be it programs or actual physical things, or what have you, music. Yeah, all the things. So anyways, got into engineering just because I wanted to be an inventor, and that wasn't a major, so it was just assumed I was gonna go into engineering, so I did. And there were things I really enjoyed about it, but it was a lot more theoretical than the design aspect. And I know once you get through it, you can kind of transition into some more of that. But basically, I was taking semesters on and off as I could afford them, and so school was taking me quite a long time. And so when I got into the really upper level engineering, I only had 3 semesters left, which is sad to think about. But a couple of those upper level engineering courses I was really struggling with, because it was based in differential equations, which I had taken 4 years earlier, and so I just didn't remember it. And I felt like I didn't have time in the semester to go back and study it. I felt like I needed to retake those classes completely. And so anyway, eventually I decided, you know what, the design's what I want to do anyways. It's going to be quicker to switch over and finish out in this program than to try to go back and review things. And then and one of the frustrating things about engineering is once you graduate with a degree, your degree is not useful. I would say that it allows you to take the exam. That's all it does. And so you have to take the fundamentals of engineering exam. Once you pass the FE exam, you get a certificate that says, I am not an engineer, I am an engineer in training, and I am not licensed to work except under a professional engineer. So then you work 4 to 5 years in industry, and then you can take the PE, professional engineer exam.
Wow.
If you pass that, or once you pass that, then you are licensed as an engineer in the state where you took the test. So until that point, anything that needs an engineer's signature on it, you can't sign until you've passed that PE exam.
Wow.
So it's a really long process. I mean, it's as bad as medical degrees in some sense. In that
That's
case.
fair.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't want to have to go through all this because I don't test well. And so the FE exam made me really nervous, and especially with the fact that I was feeling like I already needed to review things. I was like, I don't want to graduate. And then I was reading through forums about studying for this test because like I said, I only had 3 semesters left. And there was a guy that was like, yeah, I've taken the test 5 times. I've got my 6th time scheduled. And I'm like,
holy cow.
That's not the norm, but like, I was just afraid that I was going to be that guy that just was like, I don't remember. And if you can't remember the stuff and you can't pass the test, you're not going to be a good engineer anyways.
Interesting.
So
yeah, that's
anyway,
a good point.
all that to say, I mean, there is the argument that, you're going to be able to look stuff up and you're not doing, different Q by hand. You're going to use a calculator or software. But anyway, so it ended up deciding to switch over and do the design and development degree. So started looking around at those and found the one here in Utah. And I had visited Utah in 2017 and got to visit the 5 national parks and loved it, fell in love with Utah. And so I was like, it's just for 2 years, I thought. Now it's 3 years. We'll see. But yeah, so I was like, I'll come up there because I'd love to do the outdoor stuff, the hiking and biking, and not having a lot of snow in Texas. Have come to love the snowshoeing and finally got to go snowboarding for the first time. And
nice.
I hurt for a very long time, but it was fun. So yeah, that's kind of how I ended up here doing this degree.
No, that's fair. And you met a special someone there, so that there's also that.
I did. This is true. That was a good thing.
Well, the rest of us are still kind of debating on that. It depends on if she lets you move back to Texas or not.
Sure.
So once you graduate from all this, what are you looking to do?
And there are multiple avenues. My minor, like I said, is unmanned aerial systems, and so my senior project is working on unmanned aerial systems is essentially drones and their control systems. So anything unmanned, obviously. So my senior project is going to be working on a hydrogen powered drone. Yeah, so it sounds sexy. I'm hoping it's feasible. There's a couple of companies that do make hydrogen drones, or units that pair with your drone to convert it to a hydrogen system. Drones essentially, by and large, use LiPo batteries, right? And a good LiPo battery drone is going to get 45 minutes flight time, maybe an hour. My specific goal with UAVs is search and rescue. And so it would be extremely helpful to have longer flight times. If you're, up here in the mountains in Utah and you're trying to find somebody using, thermal imaging on a drone, and you've got to come change out batteries, if you've only got 45 minutes of flight time, that can be very limiting. And then you can only go out so far before you have to come back and you're changing out batteries and whatnot. You also run into the problem of at high altitude and cold temperatures that you're going to hit in the mountains, which is again a big area of search and rescue. LiPo batteries stop functioning.
Didn't know that.
So they can't handle extreme cold or extreme altitude, or especially the combination. And we're not terrible elevation here. Logan's 4,600, a little more, but then if you get up in the mountains, you can get up to 8.5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'd say those are the peaks. So
okay.
But anyways, so you're essentially just limited by the battery capacity and then the capabilities of the batteries. And so the goal of the hydrogen drone is the companies that have produced them are getting up to like 3 hours of flight time with hydrogen.
Oh, wow.
Hydrogen is obviously, it's a very light gas. So they're using doing carbon fiber tanks for storage rather than some sort of metal. So they're able to fuel them fairly lightly, and to charge a LiPo battery takes a few hours. To refill a compressed hydrogen tank takes a few minutes. So you're also looking at much faster, unless you're taking, again, if you're changing out batteries, you've got to take multiple charged, and then if you don't have enough, if you need to charge in the field, you're either bringing a generator or solar power or something like that. Solar's going to charge very slowly. A generator is just going to be bulky, but if it's charging, you can get some that are small. My ADD's kicking and I'm rabbit trailing here.
No, you're fine.
Point being, the goal is to develop the hydrogen drone for the senior project, and the current hydrogen drones are basically using the hydrogen to charge the batteries. So they're still actually flying off of a LiPo. They're just charging the battery as it depletes itself. So the goal is to get it to be able to be powered directly from the hydrogen system. And then there's also some efficiency elements to the design where I'm trying to increase the flight time based on a few different things that are technical.
You need
and
to just
boring.
build solar panels into the tops of the wings and have a mix between hydrogen, battery, and solar.
Yeah.
So I feel
the
like
problem with solar is, the problem with solar is the efficiency of solar panels is really bad.
That's so true.
You're adding weight to the drone by adding solar panels, so you have to be able to generate enough energy from the panels more than you're adding weight that you're having to overcome with lift. So I think there are some drones that do use some solar, but yeah, so it could be an option.
It's one of those things like, I'm glad there are smarter people than me out there. This world would be a crazy place.
Yeah, so that's the project, and I bring with the project to say, if I can get a working prototype, I would love to start my own company doing that. Basically, I got my license to fly commercially for UAV. So yeah, I mean, it's not that hard. But
you say that, I'm like, I have no idea.
It's not like getting your pilot's license, like for a manned plane.
Okay.
Like it's not that intense. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I have that, so I can actually fly commercially. So the goal would be to basically create these drones and then contract with like search and rescue teams or what am I saying? Like Coast Guard, National Guard, things like that to fly for them, and use these drones.
Now, what size are these drones that you're making or wanting to make?
Was that Wesley's question?
Yes.
Shout out to Wesley. I was just curious if you came up with the same question. I was gonna be like, hey, so these are mostly smaller drones. We're not talking drones that are gonna like airlift people out of, where they fell off a cliff or something, landed on a ledge. So cool, these are, and they have drones that are that size. I don't know if there's any in use doing that. I'm not 100% sure. I know it's been tested. I just don't know if there's any in actual field use right now, because it's hard to keep things stable when you're lifting a human.
A little bit.
Yeah. So, so these are smaller drones. The intent of these is mostly it's a flying sensor package. So you've got thermal cameras, things like that, that you're using to search for people. Thermal is just the easiest and probably most common. One of the classes I'll be taking in the fall will be a sensors class.
Nice.
Kind of learn about more sensor options and things, and a lot of these are going to be sensors used for surveying and photography and things like that. There's a lot of agriculture up here in Utah. That's one of the big things the school is known for. It's one with the Aggies. And so there's a lot of agricultural use of drones. There are actually drones now that can fly over a field and image individual plants that say this plant is unhealthy or this plant needs water.
What?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That's
so
ridiculous.
Technology is nuts. Yeah. So part of the goal too, as I get further into the drone project, is going to be trying to develop more sensors that will be helpful to search and rescue. So hopefully we'll get to talk to people actually doing that work and find out, hey, what's an area that could be improved on, or something that you could use that you don't have,
Right. No, that's awesome. So speaking of Wesley, since I appreciate him being in the chat and actually talking to us and hanging out, how did you meet that goober?
So technically we met at Awana.
Gosh, that
Wesley doesn't. Yeah, Wesley says he doesn't really remember that. Well, okay, so not that he doesn't remember it. He remembers being there, but he doesn't think we were actually like friends then. We just kind of like acquaintances. And then when we started DI, which is Destination Imagination, it's like an after-school program. That like I think his story is he was at the water fountain. I came up to him and was like, "Hey, we're gonna be on the DI team together," and he's like, "Cool." He said he doesn't remember gymnastics. Oh, that's right. We technically met at gymnastics before that, because we were like 5, and he and I and 2 others were at gymnastics together.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I would say more Awana. We technically met at gymnastics, but I think we became friends at Awana, and then DI together is where we really like started doing more stuff. I mean, because we would have meetings every week and we competed in that until our senior year, started in 4th grade.
So for those who don't know, what is Destination Imagination?
So it's an after-school program. It's the kind of what I would say the 3 tenets of it is creativity, teamwork, and critical thinking. Wesley's laughing because we get this question a lot, and we always said we were going to make a little business card. I keep looking over at the chat. We were going to make little business cards so we could just hand people the answer, and then we never did it. But
that's fantastic.
Those I think would be like the 3 tenets: teamwork, creativity, and critical thinking. And so basically there are multiple different challenges you can pick from. And so when the new season starts end of September, you would come together as a team, and they would have the challenges you could read through, and you would pick a challenge. And traditionally there were 5. They added 1, but there was, the technical, scientific, theatrical, improv, and structural. And then later they added one called service learning. So there was some sort of community service element to it, which I think was cool, which we actually kind of did before it was actually a thing, which I'll say in a minute. But, so basically, DI is you form a team of 2 to 7 people, you read through these challenges and pick which one your team wants to do, and they release the new set of challenges every year, like I said, in September. And then from September till the end of February, at least for our region, where we were at in Texas, you are coming up with your solution, and you have a budget. Usually it was like $150 for some of the more technical ones, or closer to like $100 for some of the less like if you weren't in technical or engineering, structural, you're more improv. Obviously had like a super small budget, because I think that a lot of years they got to bring a box, like you could put anything you wanted in, like 2 milk crates or something, and then that was what you got to pull from once you got there on the day. And then say, okay, here's what you're actually doing, and then you had like 30 minutes to prepare or something like that. And then
holy crap.
But so it was a lot of fun. We never did improv. I tried to talk them into doing it one year just for fun, and they were like, no, we're gonna be terrible. I'm like, I know, but it'll be great. So yeah, we did the engineering challenge until our last 3 years, and we went to state every year but 1 year, but we could never get past state. And I think we finally realized that it was like me and one other guy on the team that were more technically minded, and then everybody else in the team was like, I think did well with it. That's not how they thought naturally. And so I think we struggle with that. We weren't using, I don't know why the whole team decided we wanted to do technical things, because the 2 technical guys were the quiet ones. So somehow we ended up doing the technical challenge though. And so we finally our sophomore year of high school switched over to the theatrical challenge and missed going to globals by 1 point. They actually called us to be a wild card, but it was going to be like, we weren't ready for it because we didn't have any expectation of going, and it's like $10,000 to be able to go to. And so we're like, we can't raise that in time, because we got called like after the ceremony's over, like a couple weeks later, like, hey, you missed it by 1 point, but we're sending we could send a wild card, it's yours if you want it. And we were like, yeah, we can't, which was a bummer. But it was cool that we got, so you would, and Wesley said we were all in a play at the time. Yeah, because, 3 of them were. But anyways, he's distracting me. So
that's what he does. Let's just be honest.
You compete at regionals. The top X teams, usually it was like the top 1 or 2 would go on to state, and then the top usually 3 from there, depending on how many teams would go on to globals. Well, Texas is one of the biggest, it is the biggest state that competes as far as number of teams. There were over 3,000 teams in Texas.
Dang.
And then if you make it to globals, then that's it. If I remember correctly, at the time, it was all 50 states and 37 other countries that competed. So you'd have teams coming over from China and Japan, and from the Philippines, and everywhere in Europe, and all over the place. So it was really cool. It was a really cool experience, because our junior and senior year, we made it to globals. When we went with the scientific challenge. And so that seemed to be our sweet spot. The 2 years that we did scientific, um, we made it to globals. And actually, the last year, we had the number one. So they call it the long-term challenge, because you also get something called the instant challenge as part of your score, which is, it's what it says. It's an instant challenge. You get there that day and they say, here's your challenge, and you do it. And it's a smaller part of your score, but it combines with your long-term, which is the actual challenge you're choosing that you have working on the whole year, the school year. And our senior year, we had the number one long-term challenge in the world for the scientific challenge, which is really cool. So yeah, it was really cool. Obviously worked a long time for that, because we started competing, like I said, in 4th grade.
That's fair.
It took us a long time to figure out where we should be. So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. So that's DI. I guess I talked more about our team than actually what DI is. So you pick the challenge. There's always a presentation aspect of it. So you write an 8-minute presentation, and it's not like you giving an oral presentation. It's some sort of storyline you create that you're weaving these elements into. So there's the story creation, and you're acting. It's like an 8-minute skit essentially, that you're weaving all these elements into. They're like, here, you have to create this technical element that has to have these features, and you have to have these theatrical elements, and include this, whatever the science was for, like the scientific. I think our first year was robotics, and the second year was it had to be some sort of cycle.
Interesting.
So life cycle, water cycle, whatever. So yeah, there's a lot of like details to it, but it's essentially an after-school program that, like I said, creativity, critical thinking, and teamwork. It's really fun. And then since then, ever since I graduated, for the past decade, I've volunteered at the region that we competed in, and volunteered as an appraiser for a couple of years, and then was a head appraiser for a couple of years, and then now myself and another girl were the challenge masters for the Fine Arts Challenge for the past 3-4 years, something like that. I've lost count now. And once we started being head appraisers and then challenge masters, sitting on the board of directors back home, so got to help organize the tournament and all that kind of stuff. So it's been super fun. It's been a great nonprofit to be involved with, and something that obviously I had strong connections to. So it's been hard to be involved here from Utah. So I think I'm going to try to get connected down here rather than trying to fly back home every year, because it's been tough, but it's been good to be involved.
Not to mention kind of difficult and expensive to do in a pandemic.
Yes. Yeah, they did actually. Props to my region, because last year I was like, I hadn't had a job for 7 months right when I was supposed to go home, because I got down here and couldn't find a job. And I emailed them, was like, hey, I don't know if I can make it back for the tournament, because I just can't afford it. And they ended up like buying my round trip ticket for me so I could be there, which is really cool. So yeah,
you're so special. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I grew up in a totally different type of theater mindset. Because I started theater young age. I caught the bug doing like church skits and all that stuff that every 80s baby, 90s kid got to be involved with, if you were involved in your church at any type. Then I got when I started school, we did plays every year, and got really involved in school plays. That was a lot of fun. When we moved to Texas, that would have been 97, 98, somewhere in there. Got involved with, I was a gymnast at the time, so didn't really have a whole lot of time to do anything, but then got involved with a church that had a big drama program, and it was essentially theater. It was actually run by the stunt man for Walker, Texas Ranger. That he was actually Chuck Norris's stuntman.
Nice.
Back in the day, still is a stuntman to this day, but he ran our theater program. We'd go out do inner city stuff, VBSs, and then that carried when I graduated high school. Went to college locally, and a bunch of kids that I had spent the last couple years with were like, hey, you should get into the theater program with us. One of them was an assistant director for the school, and so it's a huge theater nerd, like you're a huge theater nerd. And so he called me up and it's like, hey, I heard you're coming to school with us. I'm running the theater program. Do you want to get involved? So got involved with that for a while. The improv group, Black Box,
Nice.
main stage, the plays and whatnot, doing musicals. That was always fun. Um, but yeah, no, I love anything that gets you in that kind of creative mindset. I did stage production forever. Because
Nice.
growing up in the construction industry, you learn how to put things together.
Sure.
And so it was real easy for me to actually put those skills to use. It's like, wait,
Yep.
I can actually do something with this? Heck yes. Besides build houses.
Yeah, theater is great. I wish I had gotten involved earlier, and I was too scared to audition, so I got a late start. But theater's wonderful.
It really is. It's. I think that's actually one of my big things that draws me to Dungeons and Dragons as well. Is it's that same mindset of stepping into a new persona and creating a story. With Dungeons and Dragons, it's all made up on the spot, but because we're not fancy enough to afford writers. Yes, that is my jab at all the trolls out there that think D&D is just streams are pre-written.
Yeah.
Shoot all you people. But so we talked a little bit about how you met Wes and all that goofy gooberness. What's some of your favorite childhood memories? Not necessarily with Wes, although you can throw those out there too, but like some of yours, like growing up, you had DI and stuff, you had some of your craziness. What were some of your fondest memories?
I mean, DI was definitely a big part of that, because like I said, 4th grade till senior year, competed every school year. Being homeschooled, I loved sports, but I got to play through the YMCA during the summers, but I couldn't play for a school, so I didn't get to do that. So DI was my thing, and I loved academics and stuff. So DI, I have a lot of really good memories with DI. Outside of that, going up to my grandparents lived in the Panhandle of Texas, and spending time with them. One of my favorite memories, just playing. My grandpa played guitar and harmonica, and so I started learning as I was growing up I think I started messing around with harmonica first. My brother bought me my first harmonica when I was like 8 or 9. And so before I learned how to play guitar, I would sit with grandpa and he'd play guitar and I'd play harmonica. And then later we switched and he would play guitar and I would play harmonica.
Nice.
I just said that. I would play whatever. We did both.
You switched.
It was great. It was a lot of fun.
Instruments.
Yeah, because he was way better at harmonica. I mean, because he'd been playing for like decades, and so I could, toot a little tune. But yeah, Tennessee Waltz is my favorite. I love playing Tennessee Waltz with him. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
This explains so much.
Yeah, and then that's where I started part of my love for like woodworking and stuff, because my grandpa was a woodworker, and I would go out in his shop and nobody knew I was out there. It was great. I was probably like, again, 8 or 9 the first time, and I was like, I'm gonna go make something, and I just didn't tell anybody, and I went out there and like started messing around in this shop, and amazingly didn't cut my finger off until I was actually trained on stuff. But loved going out there and messing around, and he never really got to teach me out there because my mom was a surprise baby. They had her when my grandma was 40, and then my mom had me when she was 34.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so my grandparents were 74 and 77 when I was born. So my earliest memories of them are in their 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And they lived to be 97 and 98.
Oh wow.
So I got to have a
Got
really
some
good amount of
dragon
time with
blood
them.
in there.
Yeah. Um, and they so that to say, he didn't get out in his shop a whole lot, and so when we were there, it was more sitting and visiting or playing games together and stuff. He didn't really wasn't able to get out and teach me, but loved getting out to just mess around in the shop there. And yeah, definitely did some probably dangerous things that I survived. And
I'll be honest, I think that's part of what grandpas are for.
There you go.
I know growing up, I visited my grandfather for the first time when I was 6. I was living in Maryland at the time with my family. He lived in Louisiana, and he owned a horse ranch out there where he raised and bred horses and competed in horse shows, and real well known in that community. And I remember I hadn't been there a day, and he takes me out to the barn. And at this particular moment in time, it's just me and him, and we're sitting surrounded by like 20 something horses, and here I am, this little 6-year-old kid, no fear what, and I was a dangerous kid to be left alone to his own devices. I was the baby that as soon as he learned to crawl started climbing things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think my mother warned my grandfather about this. I think she was just like, I want to see what happens. Which I don't know if that was experimentation on her part or just morbid curiosity, but I survived, obviously. But I remember him literally bringing out one of the horses, and he's like, showing me, here's the different parts of the horse and all this stuff, and then grabs me, sits me on back of, at what I thought at the time, this massive horse,
right,
and just like, stay there. And he starts doing stuff with the horse. He's like, I'm just sitting there like, what the? Like, not freaking out in a bad way, just like, this is so cool.
Right.
Yeah, that's my earliest memory of my grandfather, was just literally like, here, horse. So he taught me horseback riding, taught me shooting. Now that he waited till I was a little bit older, but just got me in situations, let me get myself into situations where how I'm still alive, I'm not sure. Very much, my favorite part of getting my heart attack was anytime I'd walk underneath the horses, because I was a short little stumpy kid, and so I just walked right underneath the horses because I was too stupid to be afraid of them, not realizing that they could literally kick me across the county if they wanted to.
Right.
And just the sheer panic on my grandfather's face was but yeah, no, it was absolutely, I feel like grandfathers are like, they're supposed to teach you the things that make moms panic. But that's the fun of it,
It's great. Yeah, totally.
It's I remember, I think one of my favorite memories growing up was I was avid tree climber from way little bitty, and my grandmother was living with us at the time, and we lived in Maryland with these giant pine trees. And so I climbed up the tree, and I realized that going down the tree was a lot harder than getting up the tree.
Right.
So I'm 2 stories in the air, and I realize that my bedroom window is right there to the tree. So I climb out onto the branch, knock on the window. My grandmother opens the window, and I'm like, I'm stuck. And to hear my mom tell the story, because I don't remember much of this, I just remember being a tree climber, and she's like, Tammy, Jeremiah's stuck in a tree. Now my mom is out to here pregnant with my baby brother, and she's like,
Nice.
well, throw him a pillow and blanket. I don't know what you want me to do about it. Let me climb up there and get him. I did eventually, obviously, find my way down safely out of the tree.
I thought you were gonna say you went through the window.
I didn't. I had to wait another year or two to where I had enough length on my arm span. But eventually, I did learn how to climb out the window, jump into the tree, and get myself in all sorts of trouble. Or climb up that same tree and climb up onto the roof, which I spent many a night, much to my mother's chagrin.
Oh yeah.
Because our house was built kind of into the side of a hill, so from the front of the house, it looks like a single-story house. But then as you go around the side and down the hill, you realize it's a 2-story house. So I would like climb up onto the roof, and if I didn't want to go down the tree, I'd just jump off the roof. And yeah, never broke a bone somehow. Never broke a bone as a kid. But yeah, it was. I was also once again, absolutely without fear child. Didn't start gaining fear until I got older and realized, hey, I'm mortal. But I was the kid that my father, I had him on the phone, and I was telling him about my day and how earlier that day I had run into a refrigerator and cut my head open. And my dad made the mistake of asking me, well, how did you do that? So I showed him. Now, just a reminder, he's on the phone.
Right.
So my dad, he hears thunk, thunk. Ah! And it's like, Tammy, Jeremiah's crying. And she comes in, he's like, he picks up the phone, it's like, he ran into the refrigerator again. The exact same place that he ran into it the first time. I even still have the scar from busting my head open.
Wow.
Yeah, how I am alive to this day. Although, to hear us tell of some of the dangerous crap you pulled as a kid. Exploding light bulbs.
Rebuilding a light bulb doesn't work so well. It does explode. I was definitely like you. I loved climbing things. I was nicknamed Monkey, and my mom, kind of like you said, she said, as soon as I came out of the womb, if the back was turned, as soon as you turn back around, I was on the highest object in the room. And I love being up in trees or up on the roof. And yeah, it's kind of the same. My roof is a little hard to get onto, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Once you figured it out.
Yeah. One of Wesley's favorites is jumping off my roof with a hang glider I made.
How well did that
I
work
fell
out
slower. I fell slower. I didn't break anything, so I loved being. I climbed. Our church was meeting at a school, and it was a little Christian school that. So it had like the first story, and then it had this peaked second story, and then a steeple on top. And it had rained, and so the peak part was still wet, and I was like having trouble, but I got up onto the first story, and then I climbed up that, and I was like hanging off the steeple, and our pastor's wife came out and saw me, and I just remember her walking out. Somebody's talking to me. She looks up. I could see how big her eyes got from the steeple, and she just runs back inside. I'm like, oh man.
Oh my god.
My dad comes calmly walking outside and goes, Jordan, come down. You're scaring people. So I came down.
That is fantastic. Yeah. I didn't have a church one. I remember my dad growing up played softball, as apparently all 90s dads did back in the day. and I was short. I couldn't see everything that I wanted to see. Well, at one particular field behind the backstop was this massively tall tree.
Ah.
So I'm like, hey, I know what I can do. I'm good at climbing. I'm good at seeing things. I can climb the tree and see everything. So, come to find out, the umpire at one point stops the game and says, somebody's kid is up in a tree and it is freaking me out. My mom, without looking, and my dad, whose back is to me because he was playing catcher, both at the same time goes, he's ours, he's fine, play ball.
Nice.
I was like, yes! They did eventually make me come down because the umpire couldn't concentrate on the game. But yeah, I was like, that was the best thing in the world. Once I got to my teen years, I took up rock climbing. That was fun.
Yep.
I was an idiot and did free climbing and cliff jumping.
Oh.
Cliff diving, not cliff jumping, to be confused with base jumping, but cliff diving. Went to Mexico when I was 16 and 17, and on one of our off days, because we were doing mission trips down there, one of our off days, me and a bunch of friends decided, hey, there's a cliff over there. Let's go climb up the rock face, and then dive off. So because we figured that was the only way we were going to get there. We're at a national park thing. It turned out there was a walkway. We found out after 2 hours of doing this that goes down from the beach and walks you up to the cliff. We're like, oh, we're dumb. But yeah, no, it was fun. I love, as much as I am a nerd, I do also love being outdoors and doing adventurous things.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of nerds, because we are nerds, and our main, this whole thing that we do is a bunch of nerds playing Dungeons and Dragons. When I was going through different questions and everything, and one of the things that kind of stuck out to me, because we've been asked this before, what do we enjoy about playing our characters and whatnot, is what do we enjoy about actually playing a character? Like, what is the draw of playing as another person?
Yeah.
I'll let you go first.
I think, especially in D&D, as opposed to just playing a character in theater where you're getting to create your own, number one is just that creative aspect. And like I said earlier, I love to create in general, and so even in the character realm, getting to create is a lot of fun, and figuring out how your backstory is going to weave together and how it affects your current state. And but also I think as people, we can be afraid to do things or say things because we don't know how we're going to look, or we don't know, like we feel socially unsafe, or when you're playing a character, you can just do it and see how it turns out and then go, nope, didn't like that, not doing that again.
That was bad.
Not going to be the Hawk Bandit. That was terrible. And so it's like you can test these things out, and you can kind of try, I don't know, not just things that you might not want to do yourself.
It's like, this was maybe a bad idea.
Yeah, and then other things you're like, oh, see, that wasn't so bad. It was purely fear that was keeping me from doing that, So yeah, I think both of those are key aspects.
Yeah, there's definitely an aspect of experimentation and being able to explore the idea of living a life, doing the things you may be too scared to try. I'll be honest, like for me, there's a big, especially with D&D, where you get to make the choices. It's not a pre-written, contrary to the trolls' beliefs, it's not a pre-written thing. It's right. Very much hey, we're making this all up as we go. Um, there are actions and there are consequences. We get to make mistakes and learn, but it's also emboldening to real life when you can sit here and go, hey, I made decisions and I learned how to deal with the consequences, good or bad. um, I'm gonna go try a thing. For me, I am not. Now the streamers, guys at home that and girls at home that didn't see, or that watched our episodes, didn't get to see my first character that Lauren killed right before we start streaming. She's gonna watch this and throw something at me. But he was a very manipulative person, and not in the I'm gonna try reverse psychology this on you. It's just very much a puppet string puller. And I'm not that type of person. I am not a manipulative person. I'm very straightforward. What you see is what you get. Type person. And this idea of okay, I'm going to let my charisma do the talking. I'm going to let my personality just be. And I'm going to try and get other people to do things that I want them to do and convince them and all this stuff. And I'm sitting here going, I can talk people into stuff. Maybe I don't have to be so scared to speak my mind or give my preferences. I grew up in a time in a not a situation. There's a word I'm looking for that is eluding me at the moment, but where
era.
Well, era refers to a time frame, and I'd already said time, so culture. That's the word I was looking for. Culture, where asking for things or telling people what you want was considered selfish. You if mom made dinner you didn't like, you ate dinner. Yeah. If dad signed you up for baseball and you didn't want to play baseball, you played baseball. Right. Thankfully, my parents weren't too bad about stuff like that. The dinner was, but that's because we grew up poor and you ate what you had or you starved. Yep. But all that to say is there's this idea of, hey, I can put my opinions out there and know that any backlash that I get is not personal backlash from my people. You may have a character who gives you some backlash, but then you get to learn how to have conflict resolution and how to deal with all the crap that goes along with that. Right. So I really enjoy that aspect of playing another character, of that emboldening of your own personal character. T&D is so therapeutic. Let's just be honest. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the what happens over the next several years as we get to play more together, and as we convince Aubrey to let you move back to Texas and come with you, and I swear I'll build y'all a house. But and just the personalities and things that get to come out of that, and I'm looking forward to you moving home and getting to spend time with you in person. Now that we've established to Brenda that you are not a hologram, that you are indeed a real physical person,
as far as she knows.
She hasn't ruled out Android yet,
right? Or a hired actor that played me.
Okay, we are too broke to be paying you to come and do all that. Let's just be honest.
I'm a hologram. You hired an actor for one evening while I was.
Oh, that's fair, because it was at a bonfire, so it's dark. She won't notice all the different things.
Exactly.
Good on the voice though. That was key. We just won't tell Brenda all of our secrets.
Yeah, hope she doesn't watch this.
Let's see who's in the chat right now. Who's watching? Nope, I don't see her. Although this will be going on all podcast forums, so if she does listen to podcasts, she may. We'll see.
Oh man, I shouldn't have ratted myself out that I was being ADD and messing with stuff. The podcast listeners never would have known.
No.
That was all a joke. I gotcha.
Jordan, what is that in the background that is wiggling?
3D printer.
Okay.
That's the spool of filament. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I got a whole package of stuff for Garrett here.
Ooh.
So I'm, printing a couple more.
Yeah, it was just wiggling back and forth, and I'm like, what in the world? But yeah, that makes more sense. Because on the stream screen, they can only see half of it. Yeah. On the Zoom screen, you could actually see the whole thing.
Right. Yeah.
Looks like it honestly, from here, it looks like a ring light. But then I noticed.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I noticed the 2 clips, and I was like, why would you put clips on a ring light? That doesn't make. Jordan, you got some explaining to do. Thank you for those of you who get that reference. I forgot to have my actual. Yeah, I got some explaining to do. I forgot to fix my lighting at the beginning. There, we'll have good lighting for the last minute. What?
Oops. You said a ring light, made me think. Yeah, no, that's. Yeah. 3D printer filament.
So I'm gonna do a little bit of a spoilery. So we talked a little bit in another chat thing about how you made Quesator. How you came up with the concept, or yes. Wesley told you were going to be a bard, just period.
Basically, yes.
and what so for your next campaign, not to give a whole lot away, but you went a very different route.
I did, yes.
So what is the thought process on creating characters now that you don't have somebody whispering in your ear telling you what you're going to be?
Yeah. So I think there were several things that affected it. One was, I think this is pretty common amongst players. Once you play a character, you're like, your next character, you want to play something really different. Mm-hmm. So thinking about Quesator and how I was going to play something different, and like Garrett and I have talked about, we very much put a lot of ourselves into it. Although, especially as we've gone on, I have differentiated Quesator from me a fair bit, but there's a lot of me in Quesator. He handles things very differently, but a lot of character traits are the same. And so the next one, really trying to. Obviously, there's always going to be some part of yourself in the character, but create something very different. I also, so like wanting to try out a new class and picking some things that I liked about this campaign and enjoyed doing. And I'm like, and basically, as you know, kind of created a whole, well, not I created, but chose a class where I get to do that kind of thing. And then also, honestly, I don't know how much you know about the personality of the new character, but as we were partnering with Take This and thinking about, since we are streaming and like having a character that, I don't know, people can learn something from, I guess. Like wanting to maybe have a character that has an impact, maybe. And like I said, specifically thinking about as we were partnering with Take This, I kind of worked in some personality traits that maybe you wouldn't typically give a D&D character, because like the classic D&D character is outgoing and has a lot of bravado, you know, like maybe you have like a Quesator that's very performing, or you have you know, your big bad barbarian. Like we all want to play cool characters,
right? You know? Or you have your edgelord. If you're going to be quiet, it's because you're an edgelord and you're just broody.
Okay, yeah, sure. And so
Albert,
like, yeah. So just wanting to work in some just like, hey, make a real, like a kind of just real life personality traits and just things that I think are, you know, really, there are some elements in all of us like this, and just wanting to kind of bring those to the surface and be like, hey, like these are cool characters too, you know?
Yeah.
So.
No, that's very fair. I know with my character, I spent a lot of time thinking about um, one, playing a class that I didn't get to play a whole lot because
Mm-hmm.
you know especially with a group that was as large as ours. You know, most D&D parties are not 6 players strong. You know, you're lucky if you can get 4. Um, but I wanted to play. I usually play characters with large groups that fills in the gap. You know, if you don't have a cleric, for instance, okay, I'll play a cleric. You know, or if
Sure.
hey, we've got some healers. Okay, we've got fighters, we've got healers, we've got range. Okay, I'll play a warlock. You know, that's kind of a Swiss Army knife of D&D.
Yeah.
With this particular character, I wanted to go something that I don't get to play a lot of, which was a frontline fighter that um, gets to get up close and personal, but also has some really cool abilities.
Yeah.
And then with the personality is I wanted something that kind of reflected what's going on at the time in our current time period. I wanted a character that people could relate to. Like you said, you know, we are streaming, we're sharing this with our community, and I wanted that connection with people out there, and especially people who I don't typically connect with.
Yeah.
I don't typically get the chance to connect with people of different gender identities or different personality traits, things of that nature. That is like, okay, how do I interconnect with you? Well, kind of the method acting of my life was always put yourself in a mindset where you've dealt with that before and bring that to surface. Well, I've never been some of these things, so having to do my research of how does this person handle these situations, what's your personality thinking. I wanted to be able to connect with people on that level, so that was a big part of me choosing my character and building that from the ground up. Of, you know, okay, I picked the class because I just wanted to do a cool class, but picking the character personalities of that character and going, you know what, I don't normally know how to deal with this,
Right.
so let me pick a character that deals with this, and I can make that connection. Because one of the things that I love about our group is we have a diverse personality group. You know, we have our introverts, we have our extroverts, we have our ambiverts. You know, we have our guys, we have our girls, we have our nerds, we have our, you know, who wave our flag as high as we can wave it, you know, mounted on the keep and everything. We have those who struggle admitting that they're nerds, and it's like, no, being a nerd is something you hide in the closet, and I'm learning how to embrace this personality of mine.
Yeah.
You know, we all come from different backgrounds growing up. We, you know, we have our guys, we have our girls, and we have different ways to connect with different people. And especially, you know, with this upcoming campaign where, okay, now we've all played together for a couple years, we've gotten used to each other, feel a little safer stretching myself, you know, and trying things that I never would have tried before. So having that opportunity to step out onto that thinner ice with you guys and just be like, okay, I'm doing a thing, you know, and find out if I drop or if we end up crowd surfing, you know.
There you go.
So it's gonna be interesting, and I like what you said about connecting with people, and because we've all talked about what do we want out of this, and building community, building our friends. We're all involved in different communities of different sorts. Um, and I like the idea of being able to connect, which actually is one of our topic questions that was on our list. Is how do you how to phrase this correctly, because I've got it written and it makes sense in my head, but making it make sense here is, um, how do you see yourself connecting with people in our community? Uh, and to kind of clarify that, because I realize, like, okay, that's kind of a broad question, is when you want people that watch our show to connect with you, how do you want them? What about yourself do you want them to connect with, or in what ways would you like to see people connect with you? Seeing how badly I bungled this question.
Are you talking about as I play my character?
Yes, as you play your character, and
gotcha.
When people connect with Casator, or people connect with whatever your next character is, how do you want them to connect to that character?
Gotcha. Yeah. I think I want them to see the despite whatever race you're playing, the humanness, in them.
Mm-hmm.
That these characters are not these like perfect adventurers that are just heroes or whatever, but it's like they're being played by imperfect people. They're imperfect characters that have flaws, and they're going through doing their best trying to figure things out. And so to I think connect with them in that way and kind of see themselves in it, or just see the human condition in them, and then to from that start looking and seeing what are things that are different about this character that I'm not used to, or maybe I don't typically see eye to eye with, and how can I see from that perspective, and how does he try to see other people's perspectives,
right?
How do these conversations happening, and like you said, conflict resolution and things like that, how do these different personalities, I love looking at personalities like Enneagram and Myers-Briggs and things, and I think they give us such a helpful tool of how to communicate with people and how to help understand them and where they're coming from. Like a big thing for me is looking at Myers-Briggs, and like I'm a T, which is a thinker, and my sister is an F, which is a feeler. And so largely that means I make decisions based on logic, and she will make decisions based on feeling. And that doesn't mean that I don't feel or she doesn't use logic, right? But that was extremely helpful for me to know how to communicate with her, and then I needed to communicate the emotion of the situation to her, and not just the logic that was going on in my brain, because I would communicate that and there may be this emotional side to it, but what was more prominent in my brain was the logic side. And so I would communicate that and it wouldn't resonate with her, and so we would have a lot of conflict as kids. And as we figured that out and learned to kind of speak one another's language, and that's just one example,
right?
In that way, just that one thing of thinking versus feeling has been really beneficial, and it would help me not to get frustrated, because I'm like, I would realize, oh, I'm explaining it with my brain, and I need to think how you think, so I can explain this in a way that you understand better. But she's also better about when I do explain it in my way, that she can understand that, because she knows where I'm coming from,
right?
And she'll pull out that side for herself. And so I think seeing that in these characters of things that you resonate with and things that you struggle with, and how do those things harmonize, and then to pull out concepts and discuss things that are not easy, like killing this dragon girl, and like challenge people to really think about things. And I joked in our group text about if this comes up again between Ryan Casator, his the inevitable monologue on moral philosophy that's going to follow, just because that's Casator.
Yep.
And I've been thinking about that. And like, there's a lot of points there. Like, she wants to protect it because it was a child. Okay, why do we protect children? And did those same things apply to a dragon that is attacking you? And it's a really interesting thing. And so I've been workshopping this in my head in case this conversation comes up, so that I'm not like on the spot and going, I mean, don't hate us, you know? So I think those kind of things, like taking those topics and really, kind of like we said earlier, not being afraid to like delve in and just like see where this goes. And if it goes somewhere and you're like, oh, you know what, that didn't go like I wanted, I think that probably wasn't a good method, or you know, my logic was flawed somewhere, that argumentation doesn't work,
right?
Which is to challenge people to think about things critically, and you know, not be afraid to bring up challenging topics. So yeah, I'm excited for my next character. I think he's going to be a lot of fun to play. Like I said, he's very different than Quesator, and is going to be hopefully adorable. I think he's going to be kind of adorable, but also it'll be, I'm very interested to see, because I don't really know about, like, John and I are playing brothers, so I'll give that little spoiler away. Jonathan and I are playing brothers in the next campaign. But we've only talked very little about that, but I kind of know the dynamic there, or at least what it's supposed to start out as. We'll see what it evolves to. But to see the dynamic between this new character and all of y'all's characters, and what that's going to be, because I've started thinking, like, and I have like, I'm like, okay, I know how I feel like Jay and Brenda and Garrett, you know, Wes would interact with these characters, but how is Lauren's character? You know, I don't know what that's going to be.
Right.
So it's very intriguing to me to see, okay, how is this going to play out? Because I almost feel like I wasn't doing this on purpose, but I kind of feel like he's kind of this universally likable character in a way.
I mean, you're not wrong.
And it's almost not Quesator.
The new character. Okay.
No, Quesator's not universally likable.
You know, he's everybody's favorite.
In some ways. No, but just to, in some ways he is, and so it's going to be interesting. He's a more, without trying to give too much away, I'll say he's a more timid character, and so I think people wanting to step up and protect him, maybe, even though he doesn't really need protection necessarily. But he's also, like I said, just to be real, he's pretty socially awkward. He's me. That's the part of me I put in. But in a different way. Like, I'm socially awkward in the whole logic thing, and I'll just like rabbit trail and berate this point like way out into space somewhere, and then be like, oh, sorry, you know, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And so he's in a much different way that's going to be interesting for me to get to try to play out. But yeah, so there's so many aspects. It's gonna be fun.
No, it's fantastic, because I know, like, with my characters, there's always something I want to connect with myself. And since we started streaming, like when I was building Val, I was looking at, okay, what do I want the audience members to connect with? You know, having the absent father who didn't abandon you because he wanted to, or because he didn't want to have the responsibility, but because he was doing his job. He was protecting you. He was providing for you by going away and doing all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, but that left this kid all kinds of messed up because of that, you know. And then all the stuff that goes in with that, then, and also his unwillingness to speak. Like, I changed Val's speech pattern to be the type that is very hesitant, and when he speaks, there's trying not to have a lot of ums and wells and because he's always got to watch what he said. Part of that was being in the Feywild, where everything you say can and will be used against you. Right. You know, and part of that was growing up as a traded commodity, where the wrong thing gets you thrown in a deep dark place. With my next character, it's my next character is coming from a very sheltered homeschool background, um, which for those of us who were homeschooled at one point or another, we're going to connect with that a lot. But also the type of homeschool kid who, when he attained his freedom, decided, I make my own rules now. You're not going to make my rules for me. Freedom! And all the crap that goes along with that sudden freedom, and realizing that, hey, maybe I shouldn't have been in a hurry to grow up and be on my own, which all of us in our 30s now like feel in our soul of, I just want to be
to find Neverland. Yeah, I didn't want to grow up. I would do, yeah, anyway.
Yeah, no, 100% get that one. Now I'm like, oh man, I should have never left Neverland.
People are like, don't be in a hurry to grow up. I'm like, I don't want to.
Yeah. No, I am more of a child now than I was as a child. Yeah. But I love this idea of connecting. Like, I'm so interested to see how my character interacts with yours. I think my character and Garrett's are going to be best friends.
Nice.
Because the Chaos Brigade is just going to be a thing. I tried to get that to be our team name for this one. Yep. It just didn't work out. Yep. This is going to be real. But also, how do you deal with somebody who's socially awkward? How do you deal with somebody who, do you take advantage of that, or do you protect that?
Right.
You know, we have some characters that are playing kind of way out in left field. All right. How do you handle that? How do you connect that? So, looking forward to seeing how our characters handle that, how we as players handle that, and then how does our audience connect to that? You know, so it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure.
All the craziness.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm gonna be sad to see this campaign end, but I know that we'll come back to it for, you know, smaller.
Oh yeah, there's so much that we're leaving undone. It's like we're gonna have to come back to this at some point.
I think it's cool that, you know, there's other people who want to DM, and we've been doing this campaign for 2 years, and it's been really cool. But to give other people a chance and to get into a new setting, and you know, there is something, like you said, really cool about getting to do a campaign for multiple years and like really get to know these characters and how they mesh with one another. And then, you know, when Brenda started, get to bring in new long-term characters that it's been really cool, and it would be cool to keep going with it and try to tie up all these loose ends, you know, and there'd be I think an intense sense of satisfaction to that, as long as she didn't keep giving us new stuff.
But you know, that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, I know. Like, just let us wrap it up. We got to. But at the same time,
eternal
like
side quest.
Exactly. It's gonna be cool to get to a stopping point, you know, and kind of bring this, you know, I guess this campaign to a close, temporarily at least. As far as a long-term campaign, at least to a close, and you know, get to experience Wes's DM style, you know, and we've all done one-shots with him, but get to let him grow in that role. Yeah, to really, I mean, I know he's had so much fun creating this world and creating races and classes with John for his character, and you know, I'm sure he's got plenty of homebrew stuff ready for us.
No, you should listen to him talk. It's quite amusing.
Yeah,
well,
so
I love the fact that we do have other people that, you know, we have multiple DM. That's one of our things that makes, for those of you who don't know, we actually have 3 DMs that rotate long-term campaigns, and myself being one, Wesley being the other, and obviously Lauren's our current one. She started this whole mess. But this idea that, like, for me, I'm sitting here going, Val's only a level 11. He wants to go do things. Or level 12, whatever level we're at now. I forget what level we're at. How did I...
11, yeah.
11, okay, that's what I thought. 11. See, I also feel like the part of me that's into like connections and everything is like, oh, that's cool, 11th hour, and we're 11th level, and there's so many things. But I'm like, Val could be a god. It's like, what? No, I don't want to stop. I want to defeat the dragons, and I want to go kill the beholder, and I want to go. Val made promises. I want to go do all this stuff, but I also like the idea of, it's like, all right, we're bringing this book to a close, but we're gonna pick up the next one, and we're writing it all together. So it's just a new scene setter. So it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to it, and all the chaos that is gonna ensue, and we'll see if we can get Wes to go bald by the time this is over. But yeah, no, it's gonna be fun. So hopefully, we'll have you back in the land of the living, in the next year or two. So that would be good. And as much as we, your life is your own. As much as we tease you, you do what you do, boo. But we do miss having you around.
Sure.
But on that note, we have reached the end of our time today. It's like, oh no! But thank you everyone who joined in, stopped by, said hi. Thank you, Wes, for keeping us company in the chat. And thank you, Jordan, for coming and hanging out with me. Always fun to... Oh, excuse me. As I get the burps right at the end. Thank you for at least waiting till the end. But, guys, come check out our stream every Wednesday, which is tomorrow, actually. Oh, gosh. So yeah, come check out our stream every Wednesday at twitch.tv/thekeeprpg. It's sitting literally right in front of me on the screen. My brain, gosh. Check out YouTube for awesome content. This will hopefully within the next week will be going on major podcast forums, iTunes, Spotify, the big ones. And then keep on our social medias, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.